Hey besties, it's me Laura, your local teen librarian here at the Easley Library. It's that time again, it's summer reading, and this year it's Tales and Tales, which is why I have my fox ears. All the books I'm going to be recommending for today's Reader's Advisory are all animal themed, so they're either about animals or the titles have animals in it. So listen, I was reaching. There's not a lot of books specifically about animals, but they work. So get your postcard at any branch. You can do 10 books or 10 activities or a mixture of the two. All you have to do is turn it into any branch and you will be entered in to win a bunch of really awesome prizes. We have a lot of the same ones as last year because people love them so much. So like a Nintendo Switch is one of our big grand prizes. We have like reusable straws and all kinds of things, hydro flasks. So if you guys are interested in that, please pick up one of these and do them and just turn them back in and you can win some really cool prizes. And now, Reader's Advisory. So our first one up is called Red Hood by Elena K. Arnold. So this is basically a Red Riding Hood retelling. The main character's name is Bizu, and she lives with her grandmother in Seattle, and on the night of homecoming she gets attacked by wolves. Now one thing about Elena K. Arnold is she's a very polarizing author. People either hate her stuff or love her stuff. I'm in the I love her stuff category. Now she's really known for using things as symbols. So in this book she talks about wolves, but really she uses boys as wolves. So this talks about like sexual assault and revenge, and it's very, very good. I like the way she writes, but be warned that this is told in second person, which is very, very rare point of view, and a lot of people do not like it. She also wrote Damsel, which is an award-winning book that a lot of people also hate, but I love. But check it out, it's really fun. Next up we have American Panda. This is really cute and it's by Gloria Chow. And 17-year-old Mei Lu should be in high school, but she's at MIT because her parents wanted her to skip 4th grade. They really want her to become a doctor and get like the top grades and make lots of money, get married, have children. But she doesn't really want to, but that's kind of what her Taiwanese parents say is what she has to do. And so it's kind of about her choosing between wanting to have her family dictate what she does and then like choosing who she wants to be. So it's really fun, but also has a lot of heavy hitters like that, but it's really cute. Next we have White Stag. This is actually one of my favorite books. It's by Cara Barberi, and she is also on Twitter. So if you want to follow her on Twitter, she's on there under her name. So it's about goblins, and the main character's name is Janique, and she's been captured by this goblin, and she becomes like a indentured servant. He treats her kind of like a pet. When the Goblin King dies, there is a tournament where you have to kill the white stag to become the new king. So Janique partners up with her captor's nephew to help him become the next Goblin King because he says he'll help her out. And it's really, really good. It's really fun. I love anything with goblins in it. The goblins in this one are kind of like fae creatures though, so they aren't as like scary as like most goblins. But there are some trigger warnings, which is listed in the front of the book because there are some heavy topics in it. So I would say this should be for older teens, but it's really, really good. Next we have the newest Holly Black in the Cruel Prince Folk of the Air series. And it's called How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. And I put this in here because Carden has a tail. So a lot of the fae creatures in Holly Black's fae universes have animal traits. So I just love his little lion tail, so I added him. Also, you know, there's Locke, who's in the first book, and he is a fox boy. So this is really good. It's kind of vignettes about Carden's life growing up, what he's doing now. It's really, really fun if you really liked The Cruel Prince. It's got really good art. So some of it is illustrated. And it's just really beautiful. And Holly Black is also on Twitter and social media if you're interested in following her. Next, we have a new book. It's called Lore. I'm actually currently reading it right now. It's by Alexandra Bracken. And it's basically a take on Greek mythology mixed with possibly like Battle Royale or the Hunger Games, where every year people come together, and if they can hunt down and kill someone who has a god's power, they get to have that power. So for example, if you wanted to have the Aphrodite's power, you would find her, you would kill her, and you would get her powers. And so every so many years, this big sort of Battle Royale style fight happens where people are trying to get powers. And why I picked it is because obviously Medusa here is the big sort of main character, and of course her hair is snakes. If you know Greek mythology, if you really liked Percy Jackson, then I would say this is one of your next steps up. If you liked Percy Jackson as a young teen, as an older teen, you'll like this Greek mythology. The next one I have is called The Silvered Serpents, and this is actually the sequel to The Gilded Wolves, and it's by Roshani Chokshi. And so Severin was dethroned by a secret group called the Order, and he's offered a chance to regain his throne and title by helping another royal heir named Hypnos steal a sacred artifact from the Order. So it's basically like a heist book, so like Ocean's 8, except with like 5 nerds who are trying to steal from this very secret religious organization. It's really fun and it's really neat. The world building is really cool, but it is very Russian. It almost reminds me of Shadow and Bone, which if you've recently seen that it's been turned into a show on Netflix, Leigh Bardugo wrote the teen books for that. So if you really liked Shadow and Bone or Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, you'll like this. It's got a lot of the same vibes, especially Six of Crows. And this one is called The Broken Raven by Joseph Elliott, and it's another sequel to The Good Hawk. And so the main character, Agatha, has Down syndrome, which is a really good representation, and especially for nowadays, you don't really see that very often. And it takes place in like a mystical Scotland, like medieval times. So they all have clans, and it has a whole lot of animals on here. Not that there are a lot of animals involved, which that's what I thought it was, but it is not. When you have certain jobs in the clan, they name it after a certain animal. So Agatha is a hawk, so she patrols the tops of the watch wall to make sure no one's invading. And there's another boy named Jamie that's in it, and he's an angler, so he is supposed to be in the water, but he's scared of the water, which is another point of one of the books. So this is really interesting if you really like old like Scottish mythology. So that one's really fun. And this one is called White Fox. Obviously it's a fox. It's by Sarah Faring. And sisters Manon and Thais drift apart after a mysterious death of their mother. And they discover her last screenplay because she was an actress. And the screenplay is called White Fox. And they start to go on a path and discover that like the world isn't what it seems. So it's another like mystical realism, sort of almost like a dark fairy tale. So if you're interested in real worlds that bleed into fake worlds, this one is what you're interested in. If you're into mysteries, so they're trying to find their mom that's disappeared. It's got a lot of twists and turns, and it's really, really interesting. So pick that up if you are a mystery person. This next one, again, we're doing foxes. Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. Yumiko was raised by monks to help her hide the fact that she is half kitsune, and a kitsune is a 9-tailed fox yokai, which is like a demon or a otherworldly spirit, and she must protect the scroll of 1,000 years to keep basically evil people from summoning the Kami dragon, which Kami is God. and he grants a wish to anybody who brings him forth, kind of like Dragon Ball Z if you watched that. And there's another boy named Kage Tatsumi who's a samurai, and he's actually being hired to get the scroll, and he has to do it at any cost. So they kind of band together in mutual deception to find this scroll, and they have an adventure and kind of start having feelings for each other. But it's really interesting because their lies start to unravel, and it has a lot of mystery to it. So another mystery adventure, and it's really good, and I really like the interaction between the two main characters. And if you like Japanese culture, Japanese lore, this is for you, because Julie Kagawa has a lot of really, really cool books that focus on Japanese lore. Next we have Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. And a war wages between witch covens and the church. A young runaway, her name's Lou, she finds herself married to what they call a chasseur, which is a witch hunter is what they call it. Through a series of stunts gone wrong, they find themselves married accidentally, and together they have to solve stuff, and while they also fall for each other. So again, it's kind of like them delving into like a secret religious organization, and trying to solve like the church versus the witches, and delving into that sort of secret society stuff. And it's really interesting because it's kind of like an enemies to lovers situation. So if you like that, this is for you, because he's a witch hunter and she's a witch. So this one is called Echo North, and it's by Joanna Ruth Meyer. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling with a lot of twists and turns, and I mean Beauty and the Beast in a light way, because it's not exactly like Beauty and the Beast. So Echo tries to save her father from a talking white wolf by agreeing to live with the wolf for 1 year in exchange for her father's freedom. The house she lives in under the mountain is enchanted, but as days go by, brooms start disappearing, and so she's on a time limit to help break the spell that's in the enchanted house. It's really interesting, a lot of weird twists and turns, so it is a very different take on Beauty and the Beast, I would say, because it's not just your basic formula. So if you're interested in that, this is a good one for you, especially if you like the fairy tale retellings. Next we have The Ravens, and this is by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. So Kappa Rho Nu sorority, aka the Ravens, aren't just sorority girls, they're witches. And it takes place in Savannah, Georgia, actually. And they have to find out who knows their secret and who is trying to basically kill them. So someone has found out that the sorority is a coven of witches, and they're out to burn the witches. So they have to figure out who knows and stop them from killing them, while also keeping the order going. And it's really interesting, and it's fun because if you like stuff that's like the later seasons of American Horror Story, you would like this. If you like Riverdale, it kind of has that sort of vibe with all the girls in the sorority banding together, and witty and campy and fun. So if that's what you're into, this one's good for you. This one is called The Blaze Wrath Games, and is by Amparo Ortiz. Now I'm stretching a little bit because it's technically dragons, so which I consider animals. They're mythical animals, but they're still animals. So Lana wants to represent her country in the Blaze Wrath World Cup, and that's a sport where dragons and their riders fight in a dangerous relay. So they get on their dragons and they do a relay, but it's dangerous. Think about like How to Train Your Dragon meets that one from Harry Potter where they have to do the cup. And it's really, really interesting world building. And actually this is based in Puerto Rico. Her country is Puerto Rico. So it is a reimagining of the real world, but in a different way, and dragons. It's really neat. I love anything that has like dragons and dragon riders on it. So it's really cool. If you like Aragon, this is a really fun next level for you. J.K. Rowling actually came out with the original screenplay for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It is basically what it is. It's just the screenplay for the movie. So if you're a really big fan of this movie, I suggest checking it out. It's really fun. A lot of people don't know that this was a thing, so I wanted to feature it even though it's not like a new book. But it's really fun. So if you really love Harry Potter and you love this specific movie, then this would be a really fun read. Next we are the Wildcats by Siobhan Vivian, and that is an Irish name. And girls field hockey team bonding the night before their first big game, and they stay out all night getting into trouble and doing some shenanigans and going on a scavenger hunt, and it's just a really fun girls bonding book, and it is really fun, and all the girls are really interesting, so it's a fun one. If you are interested in that. You know, Wildcats, like High School Musical, you're probably too young to know what that is, but let's go Wildcats. First, we have our first graphic novel. So I'm moving into graphic novels now. And this is called Are You Listening by Tilly Walden. It's a lot of mystical realism, so it is like modern day America, but it does have a lot of magical and mystical elements to it. So you meet Bee, and she's on the run, and she runs into Lou, and they kind of have a road trip across West Texas, and weird stuff starts to happen, and they find a lost cat, which is why I picked this. It's got a cat, and it has the cat has some like interesting weird superpowers that help them, and it comes in handy throughout the book. And it deals with a lot of like trauma and death, and like running away and finding home and returning home. So if you're really interested in a really great emotional journey, this is for you. The art is really pretty, a lot of watercolor, and it's not like traditional comic looking, so it's a really great read. A lot of sustenance in that one. Next we have Teen Titans Raven. So this is a take on the classic superhero, DC superhero, and it's by Cami Garcia. And this is 17-year-old Raven gets in a car accident, and her foster mother passes away, and she loses her memories. So she moves to New Orleans and starts to slowly rediscover herself. So she starts to, rediscover her powers and unlocking memories. So it's really fun because they've recently come out with this new line of Teen Titans again, current modern day Teen Titans, where they're going to school and doing normal stuff. The Beast Boy one is about to come out, or is just come out. And it's really fun if you really love DC comics, or if you're a really big fan of Teen Titans. It's really good, especially if you're a really big Raven fan. This one's a really good one because it's an interesting take on her that's not just doom and gloom. Alright, and I have included a few comics and manga that are technically in the adult area, but they're still here and easily, and they are for older teens. So I will let you know when I've gotten to some that are for older teens. This one is in the adult section. It's called Rat Queens, and it's by Weeb, Upchurch, and Bruson, and it's basically just a comic book based on Dungeons and Dragons. So if you're really into D&D right now, which a lot of people are, I play with my little D&D group, and it's really fun. This would be what it is if you like Critical Role, which I know is also very popular. You would like this. And basically they're a misfit guild. So for example, you have Hannah is the rockabilly elven mage, Violet the hipster dwarven fighter, Dee the atheist human cleric, and Betty the hippie smidgen thief. So it's just like a really fun take on the D&D tropes. And it's really good, and it's really funny. especially seeing like a guild full of like battle maidens. So it's really interesting if you really like anything like D&D or Lord of the Rings. Next we have DC and Young Animals. So it's a Young Animals take on, and it's called Milk Wars. It's very funny, it's comedic, it's weird, and it's bizarre. It's written by Gerard Way, who also did Umbrella Academy, which you know was turned into a show on Netflix. Got really popular. It's so weird. It's a bunch of like lesser known DC superheroes mixed in with well-known DC superheroes, and they're all doing weird stuff. Like Batman is a priest, and it's bizarre because it has them living like almost ordinary lives, but they're super weird. And it's a really fun read if you're interested in seeing like a different take on superheroes, and you have Superman here as a milkman. So if you're interested in seeing like a fun new way of viewing these superheroes in a not serious way, this is good for you, because Gerard Way has been like turning superhero worlds on its head, and this is another one that does that. So if you really love Umbrella Academy, the show or the comics, definitely pick this up. If you like DC, definitely pick this up too. It is worth a read. It's hilarious. And this is also in the adult section, which is just upstairs on the second level, with all the other comic books and for older teens. Next we have Blackbird by Sam Humphries and Jen Bartel. So Nina Rodriguez has to save her sister, who was taken by a great beast. And it's another, again, mystical realism. It takes place in Los Angeles. And so she has all these powers, and she vaguely has sort of witchy powers, kind of like Raven. And she has a familiar who's a cat, and it's really fun and kind of grungy. It definitely feels very now. So if you're really interested in like a really cool Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but more now and more fun, this would be what I would suggest, because it was just like a wild ride. It's really fun. And it's also in the adult section, but it can be read by teens, not even older teens. It could be read by teens. There's nothing really in it that's, I would say, would be bad. This one is in the teen section, and it's a manga. It's called Fruits Basket Another. So their original Fruits Basket is about this girl, and she Toru, who is homeless, and she ends up befriending some boys who are actually somas, which they are the embodiment of the zodiac gods, and they can turn into animals. So like she makes friends with Kyo, and you know, they have like one turns into a cat when he gets embarrassed around girls, and then there's, you know, the rat, and Haru is the cow. So that's why I added it into this one. They all turn into animals, and Fruits Basket Another is basically Fruits Basket just with different characters. So it's not the same original characters, but it is the same original story. And that's by Natsuki Kaguya, and you can just find it under Takaya. So it's really good if you really like the original and the anime, because it does have an anime. Next, this one is actually in the adult section, and I would say older teens, but it is a series on Netflix called Beastars, and the characters are all animal people, and this is by Paru Itagaki, and so they go to high school, and they have like a division between predator and prey animals, but they're all mixed in together, and they kind of have like a weird fragile piece, but then you find out that someone, a predator animal maybe, is killing prey, going around killing other prey students, so it's kind of like a murder mystery. And Legoshi is the main character. He's this wolf boy, and he falls in love with a rabbit girl named Haru, and so they kind of have the odds stacked against them, and he of course is one of the suspects because he knew one of the kids who died, and they think that because he's a predator, he's the one who killed him. So it's a really fun, interesting world. Older teens definitely. And this is in the adult section. So I would definitely recommend this, especially if you've watched the Netflix show and you can't wait for the next new season. Just go ahead and pick up the manga and you'll know what's going to happen. I definitely recommend it. It's very good. Alright, and that's all that I have for you today. And I'll probably catch up with you again for some more Reader's Advisory in the winter time to tell you what all's come out since then. Don't forget to do your summer reading. You can pick these up at any branch, turn them into any branch, just do all the stuff you can win. Lots of really cool prizes. And yeah, stay weird, stay fun, and I'll see you guys.